There will always be more Dakka. GW has given us a blessed gift with the Orks. We have a new detachment with the balanced status slate. Let's break this freaking thing down. So, this detachment is sick. It is sick. Yeah. What am I going to do in this video? So basically, I kind of read through all the stratagems stuff in the live stream, which I did. I will briefly touch on them in this video, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the units that love this detachment. I'm going to talk about the general game plan of the detachment, and I'm going to give you a few little surprising things that most people have not considered. Later on today, I will be releasing a third video for the day, and I will be going through several lists that we are already spitballing to put together for this detachment specifically, and they're pretty freaking exciting. This is so flexible. All right, so let's break this thing down. The new detachment for More Dakka. You get sustained hits 2 for all infantry and walkers in shooting, in your shooting phase. Let me write this correctly, in your shooting phase. Just so no one gets the wrong idea, it is only in your shooting phase. That means you don't get the sustained hits 2 when it comes to Overwatch. You don't get the sustained hits 2 when you're using the firing deck out of a truck. Because remember, when you're using firing deck on a truck, the truck counts as equipped with the weapons, not the infantry inside of it. So if you want the sustained hits 2, you better be shooting with walkers or infantry who are on the ground. Then, the second part of it is you get assault on all of your weapons if you're infantry or walkers during the WA. This is actually huge. This means that I get to advance out of my truck with my tank busters, for example, blast my rockets, get the sustained hits 2 on it, and then charge them in as well. It really dramatically increases your threat range off of most things. It also kind of enables a lot of the walkers in the game, Killicons, who are just notoriously too damn slow to play the game. Now that they can get assault on their weapons, it actually makes it a little more exciting. Then we have to ask ourselves a question, guys. Is this time? Does the Stompa finally have a freaking way to play the game? The answer is probably not, but I will be putting them on the table. I'll actually film it. I'm going to film a battle report where I'm trying to run the Stompa and seeing if I can make them work. I don't think it's going to work, but I'm going to freaking try. Guys, this detachment is super sick, and there are tons of different builds for it. So, like I said, the builds will be on the next video, but I'm going to show how we're actually going to play this detachment in today. So, real quick, I'm going to briefly go through the enhancements and the stratagems. If you want a more elaborate walkthrough, you can watch my live stream I did earlier when I was going through the whole balanced status slate. So, here's the enhancements. You've got the Gobshot Thunderbuss. It's 15 points. On an orc model, ranged weapons equipped by the bearer will get devastating wounds and hazardous. I mean, I can't really think of what leader is going to want this. Maybe the shock attack gun, but he's already hazardous, so just giving him dev wounds is actually kind of cool, but he's also already got like AP4, so I just can't really think about who's really going to want this. Then you can do the dead shiny shooters. This is the most expensive enhancement for 35 points. For an Orcs model, ranged weapons equipped by models in the bearer's unit will now get rapid fire 1. This is likely something that you would put on a shock attack gun mech who is leading tank busters, because now suddenly the tank busters would be D3 shots blast with rapid fire. That's actually pretty damn cool. I can't really think of many other places you would want to put it. There's just really not many other places you would want to put it. Now, I'm not entirely sure I would even take the Dead Chinese Shooters enhancement, but because it is pretty dang expensive. And you already have rapid fire on your Ludas, so it is what it is. Then you have targeting squids. Now, this is one that I'm going to take because you just get to add 1 to the hit roll for the bearer's unit. And for 15 points, that's awesome. You could run this with tank busters and the shock attack gun. You could run this with Ludas and the shock attack gun. I can tell you right now, I'm gonna be running Ludas in this detachment. And then lastly, we have Zogoth and Eat That Dakka for 10 points. Works model, the bearer's unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back. Once again, it's only really going on when those, shock attack guns who are leading freaking tank busters or Ludas. Stratagems are pretty dang solid. You got Orcs is still Orcs in the fight phase. You get to reroll wound rolls of 1, or you get full wound rerolls if the enemy is on an objective. Long Uncontrolled Burst. Start of the shooting phase. 1 Orc character model chooses unit within 18 inches and visible, and all Orc units will ignore cover against that unit. This is dramatic, especially for Orc shooting, which is notoriously low AP. Ludas, their def guns, for example, is only AP 1. But now you've got that unit of Ludas that's going to be hitting on 5s, and if you're shooting on something on an objective, it's going to be full rerolls to hit with sustained hits too. Ooh boy, and now you can also get them ignoring cover. So you're starting to see that some of the damage that we can actually get out of this detachment is going to be bonkers, like crazy damage output. And then the other enhancement that we have is going to be Get Stuck in Lads. This happens in the these are stratagems. This is the third stratagem. We have Get Stuck in Lads. This happens in your command phase. Your unit counts as being in the WA. This freaking rocks. And I'm going to tell you the strategy specifically of what units desperately love this, and a lot of people are missing it. So I'll do that once we get through like the combinations. But this is awesome. You can use this on, for example, if you want to take Gaz. Now, suddenly Gaz and his Meganobs just always have a field of pain. You want to run this on freaking Zodgrod. Oh, did I spoil something? Well, we'll talk about Zodgrod in just a little bit. Now, for your other three stratagems, you've got the special shells, which is in shooting phase. Models in your unit targeting the closest enemy unit within 18 inches gain +1 AP. Using this stratagem, we can get rockets up to AP4 if you're taking tank busters, because you can pop the pulse rockets for +1 AP to get to AP3, and then you can get another AP here. And then honestly, if you really wanted to stack it, you could even get them, oh, I don't know, ignoring cover. So the combinations are just endless when you stack these stratagems. Then you have huge show-offs. This happens in your command phase. One Orks Walker unit, sadly not Killicons, that would have been sick, is going to get +1 to its movement, leadership, OC, and +1 to hit. And that'll last until the start of the next command phase. Now, this stratagem is going to be kind of iffy. You're going to take your Stompa and you're going to take them up to what, if you're running a Stompa, what kind of idiot's going to run a Stompa? Me, I'm going to run it. I'm going to try it. You can get them that sweet movement 11 instead of movement 10, which is actually kind of cool. You can also put it on your Gorka and your Morkanauts and get them up to movement 9, which with the ability to advance and shoot during your WA phase is actually something that might be able to get them to clear the models or the terrain that you're trying to clear. So it could be clutch and it could be very, very useful. It is a little bit niche. You're probably not going to spam it all that much. And then lastly, we have call that Dakka. So in your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has shot, if a model was destroyed by the enemy unit that just shot, you get to shoot back at it as if it was your shooting phase, but you can only target the enemy unit that, killed one of your models. Now remember, this is going to be an out of phase interaction because it says shoot back as if it was your shooting phase. It's not your shooting phase though, so you do not get sustained hits 2 on the shooting, because sustained hits 2 only happens in your shooting phase. They're very, very clear about that. They wanted to make sure that this was not going to be abused. It is a strong detachment, but it does have restrictions written into it very, very well, very clearly. Also, just so I clarify here, the detachment rule is during your shooting phase, ranged weapons equipped by Orks infantry and Walker models. So it doesn't matter if your unit has the infantry keyword. So no, I've already got people asking, can I run a big mech leading the mech guns and giving them sustained hits too? Nope, doesn't work. It's very clear. It is only Orks infantry and Walker models, not the unit keyword that matters. Okay. So these are the stratagems. Stratagems are great. Now let's talk about the combo. Like what is the combo we're going to run in this? And you're just going to see it every single time. Well, you're going to have the unit that's going to activate the WA. So that's going to give them access to advance and shoot and charge. This can be the Gorkanaut, the Morkanaut, the Stompa. It can be tank buses. It can be Ludas. It can be Killicons. It can be what freaking ever. Then you're going to give them a stratagem to be +1 AP against whatever they're shooting. So if it's Ludas, suddenly you're going to have 8 def guns that are going to be at AP2. Then you've got the 2d3 rocket launchers that are going to be at AP3, and then you get this mech with shock attack gun who's going to be at AP5. If it's going to be Killicons, their rockets go up to AP3. Then you pop another stratagem for ignore cover. So this is going to be a very stratagem intensive detachment, very, very stratagem intensive detachment. So you're definitely going to need the Gretchen to help you generate the CP when you need the CP. So you get +1 AP, you get ignore cover, and then realistically, you depending on which enhancement you're going to have on your leader, you're either going to have a rapid fire or +1 to hit, which is also going to be really darn good. Outside of that, if you're one of the walkers, you can just have +1 to hit on demand using another stratagem that's going to give you +1 to move. We already talked about that one, which is very cool. You can also just take your normal mechs to buff them and give them the +1 hit. So there's lots of ways to get your +1s to hit in this detachment, but basically you're going to get advance and shoot and charge with +1 AP and ignore cover, and potentially with your rapid fire, your +1 hit. That's the combo, and we're going to see it spurred everywhere. Now let's talk about some of the units that we really want to be really want to be using in this detachment. Now for me, the clear winners here are the Ludas, and the Ludas are basically always going to be with a shock attack gun. And the number one enhancement that you're going to want is you're going to want the targeting squig for that sweet plus 1/2 hit. Because now this unit is going to be hitting on 5s, 4s for the rocket launchers that your spanners are going to have, although your spanners might have custom mega blasters. It doesn't matter. I don't really care. Choose whichever one you want. And your stock attack gun is going to be hitting on 4s as well. If they're shooting something on an objective, which they almost always will be, you're getting full rerolls to hit, fishing for those sustained hits too. Then you stack it with +1 AP. Then you stack it with ignore cover. And the actual damage that comes out of this unit becomes astra-freaking-nomical. It is a ludicrous amount of damage that can just pop out of this unit now. It's actually pretty darn brutal. Then we like flash kits. So flash kits like this detachment. I'm probably not taking the 10-man brick. I'm probably only taking the 5-man brick, the 5-man units, just like for the little, what do they call them? I think they call them like SWAT teams when you take Ludas with something else, or I'm sorry, flash kits with like knobs inside of truck. It might be something that you would think about. I probably won't be running knobs in this detachment just because you're gonna have so much damage in the shooting. Your melee punch is probably okay if you just leave it with your snaggers. But your flash kits going up to sustained hits 2 is pretty cool. Now they already had sustained hits 1, but sustained hits 2 is just clearly better, so that's great. They like it. Then you have the Killicons. Killicons, oh my gosh. Now Killicons still probably not going to be working very well on your WTC terrain, but they're going to love the GW terrain, and they're going to love UKTC terrain. Going up to AP3 rockets with ignore cover and sustained hits 2 and a potentially +1 attack, it is disgusting. It becomes a mad amount of damage. Not to mention, you can just put them in the wall when you need them to be in the wall, which means that they all get access to advance and shoot so that you can really take advantage of how deadly their shooting can actually be. Not to mention they can then follow up with a charge. So it's very, very exciting what you can do with Killicons here. So I think I probably definitely not running like the 6-man bricks. Those are almost unpilotable, but running them as 3-mans in this detachment can be pretty spicy. Which weapons do you want them? I basically always take rockets, but the reality is a grot with what's it called? The grot blaster? Or here, let me pull up now. Jeez, I can't remember the name of it. Oh my goodness. Killicons. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, the grot Zuka. So it's D3 plus 3 blast, strength 6, AP 1, damage 1. When you go sustain hits 2 on that, like I think it really does increase the amount of shots that you get by a pretty dramatic amount. But honestly, I'm probably sticking with rocket launches. I just got to be real. I think rocket launches is still the way to go with them. So I'm going to run the rocket launches personally, but that would be up to you. And then since you're in the wall, you get to charge in with 4 attacks each, strength 9, AP 2, damage 3, melee attacks, hitting on force. It's not really all that bad. Then we get Gorkanauts, Morkanauts. These guys actually become a little bit more interesting in this detachment because suddenly they're getting sustained hits too on everything. So if you're taking the Morkanaut and you're just going to be always having the 5-up invulnerable save because that's just the equipment, the war gear that you're going to give them. Or I'm sorry, he just comes with 5 invulnerable save. I'm getting my freaking editions mixed up. So I like him because he's always got the 5-up invulnerable save. Well, suddenly this custom Mega Zappa, which is D6 plus 3 shots with blast, is going to be strength 10, AP 2, D6 damage with sustained hits 2. You can give him +1 AP, like, so the combination with just stacks on everything. You can get him up to the AP 3, you can give him ignoring the cover, you can do whatever you need to do. The damage output becomes pretty scary. It's not guaranteed, but it is a hell of a lot more than it ever was before. And if you're running the knots, you probably don't need trucks because you can actually just have all your infantry embarked inside the knots, which I do like quite a bit. It's kind of a big deal. And they are towering. So remember, you can just touch the terrain and see straight through it. You don't have to get them wholly within the terrain, which means they are quite threatening for where your opponent may or may not want to be staging, especially when you stack that with their advance and shoot ability and charge, because the wall's freaking awesome now. So the Morkanauts have a lot of play. The Gorkanauts have a lot of play. I think I like the Morkanaut just a little bit more, but the Gorkanaut is definitely cheaper, and he has definitely a place in this army. There is no doubt about that. The Deathstorm Mega Shooter with if you get him in rapid fire range and he has 30 shots with sustained hits too, that is a lot of shots. Some would say the most shots. Ask anyone. So yeah, Gorkanaut could rock. And then we look at the Stompa, guys. The Stompa, when you just do the combination, man, you're looking at the Def Cannon, which is going to be 3d6 shots blast, strength 14, AP 3 up to 4, potentially ignoring cover. Or actually, I don't think you're ever really going to be getting him to AP 4 because you have to be within 18 inches, and that would be a little bit difficult. But you can still get him to ignore cover pretty easily. D6 damage, but sustain hits too on all of those, and you're obviously going to be taking either a mech to get him +1 to hit, or you're going to be using a stratagem to give him +1 to hit. You put that, you stack that with the Super Gatler, who now the Super Gatler is going to be at 20 shots, but it's going to be actually at sustained hits 2, not sustained hits 1. Super Rocket's going to it is a mad amount of damage that's actually potentially coming through. So there is a world where a Stompa actually works. I still just kind of doubt I'm going to do it or I'm going to like it, but there is a world where it actually works. Now let's talk about some of the surprise picks that a lot of people might not really have considered. So, oh, actually, real fast, we'll do tank busters, guys. It's just straight up. You get AP4 ignore cover rockets, like with sustained hits too, and then you stack it with because you're stacking it with your pulse rockets, right? Your pulse rockets will give you 1 AP, then the stratagem is going to give you 1 AP, and then obviously the combination gets you ignore cover, but then they can still charge afterwards. And people forget just how beefy tank busters are in the WA, because they are base strength 5, so they go up to strength 6, which means they're wounding all of your elves, all of your guardsmen on 2s. It really does matter. These guys actually slap a little bit in melee, so giving them the ability to advance, shoot, and then charge, it really is a massive amount. Now, I've heard people asking about Gaz plus the Mega Knobs. The reality is there is a play to run Gaz and Mega Knobs in this detachment, because you're just going to activate the lethal aura every single turn, especially with the new FAQ saying that if the WA is active for your unit, doesn't count. So he's going to give himself auras, lethals every single turn. I don't think he'll be giving the army lethals every turn, just because the WA won't be active for those units. It'll only be active for the unit that it's active for. Of course, if you have declared the WA for the whole army, yeah, you're going to get the lethal aura. But he'll give himself lethals every turn, which is kind of cool. Some people are wondering, can we take like 5 Mega Knobs and give them the custom shooters to abuse the sustained hits too? Yeah, but honestly, it's just not good. Like, it's so many points. It's really not going to be good. If you're shooting a lot of infantry heavy armies, maybe it's useful, but like the reality is, it's just don't, dude. Just keep it. I do think Gaz and the Mega Knobs is probably it's probably a poor choice, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a useless one. So I am excited to see if people find a good use for them there. But lastly, the greatest use that I can think of any off-color unit in this detachment is going to be freaking Zodgrod with his super grots. Let me paint a picture for you. A portrait, if you will. You take Mr. Zodgrod Warsnaga, and he's going to be leading his Gretchen. Now, I personally like him and his Gretchen inside a truck, because that's going to give them a 9-inch scout move. Now, they get to do a 3-inch disembark, so effectively they have moved 12 inches. You probably don't want the scout, do you? You probably don't want them in the truck, because you're going to want, no, you don't want them in the truck, because you're going to want to be able to activate the WA turn 1 on them. So scratch that, no truck. So they're going to scout 9 inches on their feet. You activate the WA, okay? For them specifically, not the WA for your army. You just use your stratagem to put them in the WA. Then they get to move 12 inches, because they'll add an extra 6 inches to the move characteristic of models in their unit during the WA phase. So now they've gone 12 plus 9, so that is going to be 21 inches, and then you could advance, and then you get to shoot with them, and then you get to charge them. So you can effectively move block an entire army with your super grots turn 1 without having to blow your load on using your army's WA for it. I think it's critically powerful. I think it is brutal, and your opponents just generally are not going to be ready for that. So it's awesome. It's so darn strong. So guys, this is the general combo. I'm going to be back in a few hours. We're working on getting some really cool lists. I'm going to try to give you 2 or 3 of them that are going to give you a lot of different ways to play. So tune in then. Let me know if you like the content. Like, subscribe, share with your friends down below. Until next time, crump on. Bye-bye.